Hey everybody, this is Luke Fisher coming at you with an introduction video, kind of giving you an idea what this channel will be about, basically all things cybersecurity. Gonna kind of dive in today a little bit on the long and winding path I took to get into cyber, maybe some brief tidbits about experiences I've had in the past that have kind of shaped my journey, and then also wanted to have an eye towards the future and explain a little bit about the next certification I'm going for and why. So with that, we'll get started. Just wanted to pull up my LinkedIn profile just so you can get an idea of who I am and what credentials I have. I hold a Master's of Science in Information Technology from Florida Institute of Technology. Um, it's got a focus on cybersecurity, so that's kind of my formal education. My bachelor's is actually in healthcare administration, which is pretty unrelated. But I'll give a little bit about the story about how that actually did help me land my first IT job in the United States Air Force, and then how I kind of pivoted into civilian healthcare, and then into cybersecurity, and then into Big Four consulting, and where I am currently, which is a law firm doing information security, data protection type work. But yeah, you can see the master's degree. I did get a certificate of business from University of Wisconsin Eau Claire. But really, after my first job, which was the United States Navy, right out of high school, I used the GI Bill, got that bachelor's in healthcare administration. Um, Let me go back here. Uh, Show all experiences. Yeah, and so in the Navy, we can start here at the bottom. That was, like I said, about a year after high school in 2007. Got technical training as an aviation electronics technician. Worked on the E2C Hawkeye, which is basically the advanced early warning radar. You might have seen the plane with two propellers and a big radar dish on top that can land and take off of aircraft carriers. Very cool plane, but really just kind of older technology. Not a digital platform per se. You know, think of high capacity resistors and transistors and just big components that had to get swapped out. Um, so that wasn't really an IT job, but it did kind of set me up through some lessons learned about how to, work in a work center and make things run even behind the scenes. Did a little bit of an internship in college at Providence, Tarzana, out in California. Worked a brief stint right after I graduated college with the bachelor's at a company that contracted with the Navy doing like inventory warehouse type stuff. But then I got my big break in IT when I joined the Air Force in 2015. Got some technical training as a healthcare administration officer, and then kind of got pipelined into the IT track. When you're a healthcare administration officer in the Air Force, you can get put into a variety of different departments, including logistics, finance, facilities, TRICARE operations, which is like the insurance component, or IT. And by God's grace, I got put into IT. It was a little bit of a challenge just because I was so new to the concepts of how a data center operates and how you have to support the end user devices by imaging laptops and desktops and troubleshooting printers and print servers and making sure all the network communication out to the main WAN or yeah, I guess it was a wide area network for that base. Um, was all up to snuff, and just kind of coordinating change control and that kind of thing. I was only a second lieutenant at the time, '01, and that facility normally tried to staff at least two '03s to run that department. Due to personnel shifts, I was kind of the lone wolf for a little while until got a really great master sergeant and another second lieutenant to come in and help me kind of manage that team of about 30 people. But nothing was really in the cloud at that point. We had an on-prem server room, a little data center in the medical treatment facility. So anytime we would get new equipment, we had to make sure it was had a server back in our racks to talk to. There was some older technology at play, like tape backups for our electronic health record and all that kind of stuff. So got exposure to HIPAA. I served as the HIPAA security officer at that time, so regular calls and updates for that. But anyway, ended up getting medically separated about after a year, a little short of a year and a half in the Air Force. Um, Decided to move back home with my wife to Minnesota, closer to my parents, but really wanted to work at the Mayo Clinic um, just because of its reputation and the fact that, I had the healthcare administration background, but I also had the IT flavor now. And you can see the first job I landed was that IT Associate Project Manager. It was a limited tenure position of only 2 years, but I was confident that if I did well, I could get either an extension or a permanent position, which it did turn out that I pivoted away from IT project management into information security. Worked in their Office of Information Security doing some pretty cool stuff with like third party risk management, Microsoft Purview. That's when I kind of got my big break into Microsoft security stack through the data compliance and protection tool called Microsoft Purview. And I can do future videos deep diving into that, lessons learned, and so forth. Yeah, but between those two positions at Mayo, I was there about almost 6 years, about 5 years, 8 months. Got a lot of broad exposure, especially in that early stage as a project manager. Worked on stuff like master data management, electronic health record implementation. They were going through a big project they called the Plumber Project, which was their transfer over from three disparate electronic health records into one Epic, which is the largest vendor of electronic health records. And just kind of making sure all the back end systems could communicate properly to feed that information into the new EHR. Got exposure to a lot of really good Deloitte consultants at that time as well, which kind of segues into the next job I took after Mayo, which was as a data protection consultant for Deloitte. So got an opportunity to work for a big four consulting firm, which I'm really grateful for. It wasn't what I was used to. I got assigned to PCI or payment card industry compliance project where this large financial institution on the East Coast was revamping their PCI compliance, and we kind of helped them through that process. Their main cloud was Azure Web Services or AWS. So got to learn a little bit of AWS security, kind of mapping the PCI into some of their existing compliance programs like the NIST CSF framework, and that was great until I got the call for my current role, which is at a large employment law firm called Jackson Lewis. And when I say large, it's large by the standards of, you know, um, a legal firm. I think we have 2,000 plus employees. About half of those are the attorneys, and um, it's a great fit for me right now. I love the job. I love my team and the management. I've been challenged and to stretch and grow in areas that I've never, kind of touched on, including some, system integration, adopting a new SIEM, Microsoft Sentinel, learning some cool stuff in PowerShell and Custo query language, getting a little bit more of my technical chops going, and yeah, it's been a journey. I'm definitely happy with where I'm at, but I know that there's a lot of growth to do. And I did want to touch on, before this gets too long-winded, my next certification that I want to tackle, which is the CompTIA Network Plus. And the reason I'm targeting this is because a lot of cybersecurity and IT work, you need a strong foundational understanding of how networks work, the different protocols and ports, IP address ranges, all kinds of things about the security of networks. And you can kind of, if you go to CompTIA's website, they've got a good breakdown of that, as well as they give you their exam objectives. I'm going to make this a little bigger here. Whoops. So yeah, you can see 23% of the exam is networking concepts, 20% on the implementation side, 19% on operations, 14% on security, and then 24% on troubleshooting. So this is a challenging cert. I've been told by people who also have the CISP, which I have, that it was more challenging in some ways for them to get this cert than the CISP, if you can imagine that. But whenever you do study for these exams, there's a lot of crossover. Like you look up top and you see reference to the OSI model. which is a way of kind of logically breaking down the layers of network traffic. And that's something the CISP did cover, as well as the CCSP, the cloud one from ISC squared. So some of this will be refreshed, which is always good to do. Some of these concepts can become rusty if you're not using them actively. But yeah, anyway, I don't want to make this too long-winded. Just wanted to come on here and introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my background, and just looking forward to future videos where I can dive into specific topics, whether it be about Microsoft Purview or Sentinel or working with APIs, a little bit of PowerShell stuff. I also created an Instagram handle. I don't have any followers yet, so if you want to be an earlier follower, it's just InfoSec Luke on X. Sorry, not Instagram, X, formerly Twitter. Um, and sometimes I'll just post links to like little articles that I've published on LinkedIn. You can also follow me on there. But looking forward to seeing what you guys want to see more of. And thanks for having me. So take care, all. Till next time.